Chaudhary. Good morning, namaskar. Dr. Sri Lohani, Sri Rajesh Uppalji, Professor Avdesh Prasad Singh ji, and Dr. Nilay, and the distinguished guests here present. I greet you all on Saraswati Puja today. I feel greatly honored to have been invited to speak from this prestigious podium of this iconic India International Center to this august assembly of intellectual elite on this very special and auspicious day of Saraswati Puja, about a book which I just chanced to read, and I found it so compellingly thought-provoking that I could not but write a review of it, which the author and the publisher liked alike, and so I'm here standing before you. I cannot thank Dr. Nilay enough for bestowing this favor upon me, which in all my humility I think I hardly deserve. When I was informed that I had to speak about the book, I tried to arrange my impressions of reading this book into a format, and I had a very hard time putting this book to a class or genre of writing, because packed into its 147 or so pages is the life of the contemporary, current urban India, happening now and here, presented in all its myriad complexities and contradictions. I could not find any catchword or so. And then when I read through, I looked for a conceivably possible central motif which could reasonably characterize this brilliantly original work. And I found it as I read through towards the end. It was pause and ponder. Being Good captures the contemporary mood of the times, the zeitgeist, and interprets its implications for our future. The changes of the last 2 decades, beginning from about the end of the last millennium, and riding the third wave of capitalism, fueled by the rapid technological innovation in electronics and materials, have transformed our society to an extent and to a degree that where we are in dire need to introspect where we are heading, where we are going. The changes, which the writer rightly calls fast and furious, have been clinically, efficiently exploited by the market forces and the corporate world, working hand in glove to create a consumer society sucked into an inexorable, self-regulated process of earning, profit-making, more profit-making, spending, more spending, and the process goes on and on. The book stops us and confronts us with the question, where? Where are we going? Where are we heading? Like a policeman halting a recklessly driving biker and warning him or her, this great motivator and crusader of human values sounds the alarm to stop and listen, to pause and ponder, and to see that the juggernaut of consumerism in its blind rush onwards, in its blind onward rush, is crushing human values and making a machine of man. The pace and power of these changes has impacted on the whole of the Indian society. But the middle class, as Professor Chaudhary rightly said, on the whole of the Indian society, but the middle class in particular seems to have been caught off guard and is bearing the brunt of this brutal onslaught of the market. A relative rise in prosperity and living style has blinded this class to the heavy toll this powerful process is taking on them in terms of his spiritual and physical health. Ironically, it is this very Indian middle class which at this moment of dramatic growth of globalization finds itself in the forefront of this epoch-making process. Not only India's economic growth depends upon this burgeoning class, but also that India's role as manufacturing and services hub of the world will be fueled by this segment of the society. The demands and commands of the market and the corporate world have caught this class in a vicious circle where, while it helps to accelerate the capitalist market growth, it is also consumed by the strategies and consequences of the same market growth. Views and opinions about the situation are regularly appearing, both in print and electronic media, but they present only the fragmented view. Being Good presents a comprehensive picture. Each of the 4 chapters of the book deals with one specific aspect of the fast-changing socio-economic, cultural landscape of our society. The first chapter, The Neo-Powerful, presents a very subtle analysis of how that inborn craze for power is affecting the behavioral patterns of all classes, the powerless and the powerful alike. The writer writes, "Power constructs a mindset. It directs and shapes the person as a grabber who later becomes busy doing everything to sustain that power." It is very interesting to read in the same chapter the description of how mobile has silently slided into the social psyche and is now controlling and guiding our activities and relationships. Even to the powerless, it has done some good. It has given to the powerless, the voiceless, a voice and upper mobility. The second chapter, Money at the Top, most likely constitutes the core of the book, where the characteristic qualities of Dr. Nilay as a writer and thinker are on full display. His keen sense of observation, attention to details, his gentle touch of irony, his deep sense of purpose, his lean, clean, and persuasive prose, combined and condensed and synthesized into a beautiful and powerful narrative of our times. The chapter also expounds on the central context and concern of the book, the fast diminishing values in our life. He sums up the situation in this very short, pithy, a catchy sentence. Today, value is a synonym of financial value. The whole cycle of living now circles around only the biological needs. Earlier, the 3 main biological needs, food, clothes, and shelter, were like institutions in which people invested their affection, their love. But now, they have been exploited by the market forces for profit making. His gentle touch of irony and subtle sense of humor can hardly hide his deep sense of worry and fear at the whole social structure hurtling towards a pattern of living and routine conditioned by the market forces, where making profit and more profit is the rule with no exception. At times, when the writer describes how an erratic eating style of the middle class is so ominously eating into its health and body, he becomes real angry, and then he puts aside his gentle irony, takes a hammer in his hands, and as it were, hits the bulging tummy of many of the middle class people hard, which is obviously resulting from reckless gorging on unhealthy but fashionable food, mainly for ostentation. And one very pertinent connection that he establishes at this moment, that this faulty eating habit may also have given rise to this road rage, that sudden rising of temperature on the road. And I thank Dr. Nilay for pointing out a very, very crucial issue that is affecting our society today. And it is a matter of research, and I think many of the social scientists may take up this subject as a research. The third chapter takes us straight back to the central question of the book, which opens it and runs as a unifying thread throughout the narrative. Who is a good human being? The book begins with a small bird intervening in an ongoing conversation between the mountain and the sea, with the forest listening intently. The little bird is not impressed or convinced by their assertions or claims and becomes curious to know the answer. And finally, the Mother Earth herself has to come to her help with her emphatic answer. No one is stronger than a good human being. And the bird, the metaphor for the writer himself, begins a quest for a good human being, a being who epitomizes all those values that humanity has achieved through evolution. This quest takes the reader on a whirlwind tour of contemporary urban life through all its possible pathways. It is in this third chapter that he brings his range of reading, his deep understanding of human psychology, sociology, and economics to bear upon his vivid delineation of the modern Indian individual and the identity crisis they are going through at the moment, and how they try to gratify their ego in different hollow ventures. He rues the fast diminishing sense of morality in different professions, but he is particularly concerned about this trend infecting the teaching profession, and that I have felt so strongly. And finally, the last and concluding chapter, where we meet Dr. Nilay, the philosopher, the nationalist, and above all, the liberal humanist. Here he forces our focus to certain worrying consequences of this process. And one is the care of the old and the aged. A very remarkable piece is his explication of the dichotomy between the practical and the idealist, and how he pleads so ingeniously for a balance between the two, for a meaningful and fulfilling life. And now for the final answer to the first and the ultimate question: who is a good human being? The answer is shockingly simple, and Dr. Lohani, Professor Sri Lohani has mentioned in his speech, paropkar, those who can help others. The answer is, to the question, who is a good human being, shockingly simple. And the answer has been made to be given by none else but Swami Vivekananda, one of the finest species that humanity has been able to achieve through evolution. They alone live who live for others. An answer universally and eternally realized and accepted, dictated by the scriptures, paropkarai punyai papam parapirdanam, proclaims Maharshi Vedvyas from the dim outline of the ancient times. Parhit saras dharam nahi bhai. So attests Tulsidas from our recent past. Vaisnav janate tene kahiye je peer parai jane re, authenticates Gandhi from our own times, and now this book reminds us of all those sayings. It is difficult to think of a time more opportune and apt for the publication of a book like this. It is an honest and urgent effort to remind and warn the present generation about ignoring and defying the values which have been eternally realized and accepted as indispensable and irrepressible values that can never be substituted. We all know that Gandhiji believed in making man before making the nation. Individual human beings had to prepare this speech. Are living and organic bricks with which only the nation could be built. Are the living and organic bricks with which only the nation could be built. If people lose their sense of values, they can never qualify as components of a nation that may justifiably look forward to a vibrant and vital future. It is not for nothing that our school teachers constantly and consistently tried to hammer home the eternal relevance of that unforgettable adage, if wealth is lost, nothing is lost. If health is lost, something is lost. And if character is lost, everything is lost. We must hear and heed what this book says before it is too late. The strongest point of the book, its forte you can call, is its readability. You think you can skim this book as Sri Lohani has done? No way, you cannot do this. You start reading this book, just enter its portal of placid, tranquil, slow beginning, which is just a trick to lure you into its vortex, a port which engages your attention, and soon before you can realize you are caught up in the whirling vortex of the happening drama of the contemporary Indian life, not as a reader, but as a participant, as an insider. You start as a reader, you become a participant in the happening scene. The book calls upon every Indian, both as an individual and as a member of the community, to rise as a human being to the challenge of our time, to save the beauty and integrity of this human life, and to pass it on to our children and grandchildren, our posterity. In the final analysis, I'm coming to the end of my lecture. In the final analysis, I must say that the book is not all gloom and pessimism. Rays of hope and optimism shine strongly through the clouds with the promise of a bright future. At a deeper level, the book celebrates the human right to happiness. The market forces are also luring the working classes to integrate in the consumer society. One good thing about the market forces is that they do not make any distinction on the grounds of caste or religion, and this can work wonders for a society as diverse as ours. The book ends on a note of hope and expectation that only if we could bring the human values where they belong, and the writer is convinced it will accelerate the process of integration, the life of a common Indian would be so much more fulfilling, and India would attain the height it is destined for. Thank you very much.